please, don't try anything that you're about to see us do at home. Ever.
On this episode of MythBusters, was the moon landing a hoax?
Yep, the team are tackling the tallest tale of all. Did NASA fake the Apollo moon mission?
That's 100% wacky right there.
Adam and Jamie first focus on the photos.
Behold our moon landing set.
Do these stills prove Neil Armstrong took his small step in a studio?
Taking the shot.
Then they investigate the myth that to fabricate the classic look of lunar landings, NASA simply slowed down the film. And finally, Cary, Grant, and Tori,
Oh my God. These are all vacuum chambers?
take on claims that in a vacuum, flags don't flap and foots don't print.
In your face, conspiracy theorist.
Who are the MythBusters?
Did you know what was lurking in your basement?
Adam Savage
This is the best cooking show ever.
and Jamie Heineman.
Is that beautiful or what?
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Grant Imahara,
That was crazy.
Carrie Byron,
Let's go.
and Tori Belleci.
Is this as disturbing as I think it is?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Let me guess, we're doing what, moon landing myths?
We are! Perhaps one of the biggest myths of all is that NASA faked the moon landing and perpetrated a hoax on the American people. So pervasive is this myth that 20% of Americans today still believe it, and we're taking it on.
Well, how are we going to do that? The number of claims are massive. I mean, they range from photographs to heat signatures to footprints.
I know, there's a lot of them. I think what we should do is cherry pick the most common ones and piece the truth together as best we can.
Like a jigsaw puzzle.
Exactly.
On July the 16th, 1969, the world watched, wondered, and worried as 3 brave astronauts headed for the moon.
The Houston thrusters go. All engines, you're looking good.
Then 5 days later came that extraordinary moment in time
Eagle has landed.
when Neil Armstrong took those first tentative extraterrestrial steps.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
11 men followed in Armstrong's footsteps, each stride filling the earthbound audience with pride and confidence in scientific endeavor.
What, you, isn't it doing? It's absolutely unreal.
But did we really leap into the future? Or were we pushed into believing a giant PR stunt? Did NASA pull off the greatest cover-up in human history?
Oh, yeah, perfect. Growl like a tiger. Mew like a kitten. Guess what our first myth is?
Still photography?
Yes! Most of the alleged evidence that NASA faked the moon landings comes from NASA's own photography, which theorists claim shows clear evidence the moon landing was faked in the studio and could not have been filmed on the moon.
Say hoax.
Hoax!
So these are the photos the guys will focus on. According to Apollo hoax advocates, this shot was taken in a studio because the shadows are not parallel. Supposedly, that's something that could only happen with multiple light sources. Then there's this image of an artfully lit astronaut. Conspiracy cheerleaders claim if he really was standing in the shadow of the moon module, you wouldn't be able to see him so clearly.
You know what? Let's do parallel shadows first.
How do you want to test it?
Oh, I think we should do a large miniature because we can test the placement of all the various elements. It's kind of a complex thing.
Yeah, we need a lot of control over those elements.
Exactly.
All right, let's do it.
So first up, the guys need a single, supersized light source to stand in for the sun.
I'd like to introduce you to your son. Over here, I look like one of the aliens in Close Encounters.
That's the solar. Now for the lunar. Cue the build montage, because Jamie's making a moon.
I've got a good first start on my lunar set. It's just spandex and, let's see, Portland cement with a little bone black, which is basically black powder.
Ah, that could not be better.
What do you say we turn on the lights and see what our shadows look like?
Yeah, let's see the light. Let's turn it around. I'm spinning around. Watch your eyes. What do you think?
Works for me.
We've had the lights, and there's been plenty of action. So where's the...
This is the camera that we're going to use. It's a Hasselblad that's very similar to the one that was used on the moon, except that we put a digital feed at the back so that we can look at the images in real time on a monitor and make comparisons to the original shots.
All right, with our sun in place, man, in addition to looking totally freaking awesome, it's pretty clear here, with the ship and the rocks both on a flat surface, that their shadows are totally parallel.
And that is what the myth proponents say the NASA photo should look like. Instead, you can see the rock and landing module shadows are in different planes.
Now we need to figure out what it would take to make them not parallel.
Yeah, let's play with the topography underneath it and see what we can get. Conspiracy theorists say there's only one explanation for this. 2 light sources. And since there's only one light source on the moon, and that's the sun,
That's really kicking it forward.
this has to be shot in a studio. We're positing that it's the topography of the moon causing these shadows of the rocks to look like they're not parallel, when in fact they are, and that's what we're trying to imitate here. It's all just about adjusting this directly to the light.
What Adam and Jamie have done is simply give the miniature lunar landscape some realistic contours and imperfections.
That's perfect.
Is it?
Yeah.
And the shadows appear to move out of their parallel path. And Adam, happy,
Dude, your setup looks perfect.
takes his snap.
Take in the shot. So I can hear what you're saying. You're saying, but you guys replicated the moonshot on a set and your special effects artists. In fact, you're exactly the guys they would have hired to do this kind of thing in the first place. That's not the point. The point is we're addressing the specific claim by conspiracy theorists that this photo has only one explanation, and that's 2 light sources. We've demonstrated here 2 shadows which are parallel from a single light source, which we've made look far off parallel using only the topography that they're sitting on.
And I guess that means it's busted.
Totally busted. You can achieve shadows that do not look parallel from a single light source.
In a vacuum, stay puffed spacemen don't stay puffed for long.
That's what happens to you in space if you don't have a spacesuit.
Oh, he's like a raisin. Well, as much as I love busting out the vacuum chamber, what does the marshmallow astronaut have to do with the moon?
Okay, well, as we know, the surface of the moon is a vacuum. And some of the conspiracy theories contend that the moon landing footage is fake because some of the things that they did are impossible to do in a vacuum.
That's right. There's the one theory about the flag. A lot of people think it looks like it's flapping in the wind. Now, that would be impossible in a vacuum because no air, no wind.
Someone actually told me a good one about the footprints. The idea is that the astronauts couldn't leave such distinct footprints on the moon because there's no moisture in a vacuum, and the moisture is what holds the footprint together.
So how are we going to test this one?
I think we're going to need a bigger vacuum.
And like way more marshmallows.
These vacuum theories are some of the more convincing in the conspiracy canon. After all, it appears logical that the breeze that fluttered the flag just couldn't be there on the moon. And anyone who's taken a walk on a beach knows only wet sand leaves a definite footprint. So with no moisture on the moon, then these images must be fake.
Okay, so we're going to have to replicate the conditions of the moon as close as possible here on Earth.
Well, I think the closest we're going to get are the vacuum chambers in Alabama at NASA.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to go into the vacuum chamber. So the experiments that we make, they're all going to have to be operated remotely.
Okay, well, I'd like to do the flag test and build it to the original NASA specifications and then figure out some way to turn it like the astronauts did.
All right, well, I'm going to take care of the footprint myth. I was wondering if you can help me with an experiment to demonstrate the whole theory behind this myth.
Boys, don't fight. Plenty of me to go round.
Outside M7, Tori sets up the demo with the closest thing he can find to lunar dust. Actually, it's plain old sand, one half of which Tori moistens.
Now, conspiracy theorists say that this clean of an imprint is impossible because you need moisture, and since there's no moisture on the moon, this cannot happen. Now, I'm going to demonstrate what they're talking about with the sand here. I have dry sand and I have wet sand. We're going to have Carrie put on a moon boot. You know how to moonwalk? Okay, so the answer is no. She's going to step in both, and we're going to see what kind of impression is left behind.
Okay, ready?
Yep. All right, do the wet. The wet sand is definitely cleaner than the dry sand.
Yeah, you've got some really good hard lines in the wet sand.
Yep, the moisture makes the difference. Without it, the imprint is indistinct and nothing like Buzz Aldrin's famous boot print.
Now all we need to do is go to the moon, try this for real. I'm just kidding, we don't have the budget.
To the moon, Tori! To the moon!
Later, Adam and Jamie line up a laser on the moon. But first,
Taking the photo.
there's more fake photo theories, and Cary, Grant, and Tori let loose at NASA.
Across the web, there's a host of hoax theories claiming NASA faked this footage.
Look at the size of that rock.
And a ton of TV covering the conspiracy claims. But no one has actually taken the time to test them. Until now.
The next task in our moon myth-busting is this photo here. What conspiracy theorists say is that he's too well lit. You can see him clearly, yet he's in this black shadow of the LEM. There's only one light source on the moon. That's the sun. Conspiracy theorists claim there must be a second one making him visible, and we're going to find out.
And to do just that, the guys are going to shine a substitute sun on the very model of a modern miniature landing module. Oh, and a surprisingly talkative toy astronaut.
This is my 1/6 scale model of Neil Armstrong. I can tell it's Neil because he's got the red Commander of the Mission stripes on his suit. What's that, Neil?
We really went
trip to the moon. I know. But the thing is that in order to prove that, we got to take some photographs, and to take some accurate photographs, I got to make a ship for you, a home for you. Okay. So these rolls of paper behind me are actually a lunar landing module in potentia, which I'm about to slap together.
And courtesy of what's known in the editing biz as a few jump cuts, here it is.
Conspiracy theorists are saying that the shot had to have been faked using a fill light. Personally, I think it's because the moon's surface is reflective. And when you think about it, you look at the moon on a clear night, it's obviously reflecting light back at you. That's why you see it. The question here is it enough to create this shot?
To test Jamie's hypothesis that the mythical fill-in light is simply sunlight bouncing back off the moon's surface, the guys black out the set.
Behold our moon landing set. Because it's all about reflectivity, we put blacks all around the shot, covered the whole set to eliminate any spill, any reflection of light that's not coming directly from our moon's surface.
That's the landing module, astronaut, lights, and camera sorted.
Dude, this looks so cool.
The only missing component is a moon dust analog that accurately reflects the reflective quality of the real stuff.
The dust that covers the moon is called regolith. When the sunlight shines upon the moon, regolith reflects a certain amount of sunlight back towards Earth. That reflective quality is called its albedo. Now, the albedo of moon dust is between 7 and 10%, according to our sources at NASA.
To make our version of regolith, we used Portland cement and charcoal powder. Now, to measure the albedo, or reflected light coming off of it, we used a light meter and our fake sun.
8%, dude, that is perfect. What we just showed with this test is that our sample regolith has a reflective index of about 8%, which makes it ideal for us to test with. This is the moment of truth. We've got an accurately shaped and textured moon lander, and we've concocted an accurate moon surface that has the same reflectivity index as the actual moon. If the myth is to be believed, our astronaut on the dark side in the shadow of the lander is going to just fade to total black when we try and take a picture of him. All right, you ready?
I'm set.
All right, here we go. Taking the photo. Let's see. There it is.
Oh, there you go. He's standing full on in the shadow, and you'd think you wouldn't be able to see him. He'd be dark, but he's not. He's in brightest day.
The myth here is that you would not be able to see this astronaut this clearly unless there was a secondary fill light illuminating him. Because he's in the shadow and there's only one light source on the moon, he would, by definition, be black. Our photo here proves just the opposite. That with a single light source, with the surface the same reflectivity as the moon, our astronaut is clearly visible, busting that myth.
Cary, Grant, and Tori are taking on tales from Moon Hoax HQ. Conspiracy theorists believe the vacuum in space means these footprints are fake, and that flag shouldn't be flapping.
This whole idea that the conspiracy theorists have is based on the fact that there is no wind or atmosphere in a vacuum, nothing to blow the flag around. And they would be right about that fact. Ow. Sorry. Shaft is a little tight in the hole. My belief is that the astronauts moved the flag around as they were planting it in the surface of the moon, and that momentum is actually what they saw as a breeze. So to test this, I'll be building a replica of the lunar flag assembly, and then we'll put that in a vacuum, and I'll build a mechanism to rotate it the same way the astronauts did. Then we'll see if we get the same flattening motion.
And with both remote control devices ready to go, the team heads for the George Marshall Space Center in Alabama.
Oh my God. These are all vacuum chambers? How great is that? That NASA is opening their doors to let us come in and test this myth. That's how confident they are that this is a myth. All right, close the door. Let's see if we can pull our feelings out.
You know, I heard this was actually a fuel tank from a Saturn V rocket that they converted into a vacuum chamber.
They're just like us. They recycle their old stuff.
And to show us their recycled stuff is NASA vacuum technician Michael Terry.
So you know how to use this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're actually going to let us use it.
Yeah, I think I will. Let's just be careful.
He's obviously never seen the show before.
Look at it looked like they cut the arms off of a spacesuit.
And wait, does your head go here?
Yeah, that's where it goes.
That's awesome.
How much are these gloves worth?
Approximately, they're worth almost $500,000.
Michael really hasn't seen the show before.
Step out. Step out.
It's a portable hug.
So you're going to show us how to use these?
Sure, I'll try to do my best to get you guys to do your hand checks. Fingernails need to be kind of shortened up and clipped.
The arms are everything I expected. They're all 1950s pop space movie looking kind of robot arms. The only downside is I gotta cut my fingernails.
All right, well, let's move on to our first moon test.
All right, got your boot?
Yeah, I got my boot.
All right.
Coming soon, Adam and Jamie take off for fake film.
That's 100% wacky right there.
But before that success, Adam's got to get dressed.
This is called the Snoopy cap.
And finally, Tori puts his foot in it.
You feel your toe there?
You know, one of the other ways that conspiracy theorists claim NASA botched up their faking of the moon landing is evident, they say, in the movie footage of the astronauts jumping around in the moon's gravitational force. They say it was all done with camera trickery.
Like messing around with the frame rates and stuff.
Yeah, which falls into the category of special effects, which should be a cinch for us to test.
I agree.
Let's do it.
The myth states that this famous footage was faked by slowing it down. The astronauts are simply skipping around on a film set in slow motion. So are these iconic images full speed fact or slow motion fake?
Specifically, what are the conspiracy guys saying?
Well, they're claiming that when you look at the footage of the astronauts hopping around slowly in the moon's gravitational field, which is 1/6 that of Earth, that movement was achieved not by going to the moon, but by using a special camera which filmed the astronauts at a higher speed than normal, so that when it was projected back at a normal frame rate, the astronauts' movements were slowed down, imitating the way it would look on the moon.
Well, we should do exactly that and see what it looks like.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Let's do it.
And to recreate their very own moonwalk, they're back at the Alameda Naval Base and Building 24.
Here at Command Central, we're going to take as our jumping off point in testing this myth, NASA's actual footage of the moon landing. We're going to try and replicate several of the gestures we see the astronauts doing on the moon. And the three we've narrowed it down to are jumping straight up into the air.
Come on out here, give me a salute. Big Navy salute. Off the ground, the floor.
Skipping, which is a kind of a two-leg hop. Notice he puts both feet on the ground at the same time with each jump, and it looks like it's a really efficient way to move around. The third is just a straight leg-over-leg run. We're going to match the camera angle and match the techniques supposedly used to fake it and see what we get.
With those three actions and camera angles in mind, we can begin phase 1 of the test. As a point of comparison, Adam will simply recreate the myth. In full costume, he'll run, jump, and skip as if he's bounding around on the moon, and then we'll slow down the tape and take a look.
This is called the Snoopy cap.
It's the MythBuster motto. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Let me take you on a little tour of what I'm wearing. This is in fact a wedding present from my crew a few years ago. But when I got it, it was lovely but not quite accurate enough. So I redid the gloves, I added my label, I did a wrist checklist, I did the correct watch, I added all the hardware attachments, all the labeling on the front pack and the backpack. I decided to make myself the mission captain with the red stripes. And this is the first time I've ever gotten to wear it all at once.
I've got a lot of tools and gadgets and stuff. Adam has spacesuits.
By the way, I should point out, this is not a real spacesuit. It's just my wear around town spacesuit.
Some of the first words spoken from the moon's surface answered the simple but powerful question.
It's almost like a powder.
What did it feel like?
I can see the footprints of my suit in the fine sandy particles.
But did Buzz Aldrin really make such an impression on the moon? To find out if moon boots make boot prints, Tori's borrowed the real deal.
Look what I got, a real moon boot.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, it's just like Adam's.
Yeah.
So this is the actual article.
Yep. Now all we have to do is put it on the moon stomper, smash it in some dust, and see if it leaves a footprint.
This conspiracy theory is pretty interesting. They say that because there's a vacuum on the moon and there's no water vapor,
Does that fit? You feel your toe there?
you can't leave a clear imprint from your boot the way they did in the photos from the lunar landing.
Just 840 pounds of lunar material returned to Earth from all of the Apollo missions. There's not much of it to go around. So for this test, NASA has given us a lunar regolith simulant.
It's manufactured to test equipment that is going to the moon. It's very similar to lunar dust in the fact that each particle is very sharp. Dirt on Earth has been weathered, so it's very smooth. So this is as close to lunar dust as we can get.
That's likely to be the key to this myth, a comparison of the physical properties of sand and lunar regolith. Down here, a footprint in dry sand collapses because the weathered particles can't bind together without water. But up on the moon, other bonding agents are at work, one of which, the irregular and jagged shapes of lunar dust, could cause it to stick together in those famous boot prints. Will the irregular shape of lunar regolith, in conjunction with the vacuum, result in a clean boot print and bust the myth?
Give it a shot.
The rig is ready to take its one-legged step, and the vacuum chamber has been vacuumed.
Boot stop, vacuum. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. face, conspiracy theorist.
Yep, it really does work.
Moon landing 1, conspiracy theorist 0.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So it seems you can make a clean, stable footprint in a vacuum.
Look at that. We made a footprint inside of a vacuum.
And there was no water vapor, which is what this conspiracy theory is all about.
Well, the gravity is 6 times stronger on Earth than it is on the moon, so we made a footprint here. We're definitely making one on the moon.
So I guess this conspiracy theory is busted.
Busted.
Busted. Now NASA will let us out of here.
Coming up, Adam chafes for science.
Making me quite sore in some very private places.
Then Cary Grant and Tori wrap up the flag-flapping mystery.
Please, don't try anything you're about to see us do at home. Ever.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
John F. Kennedy started the race to the moon in a speech he gave in 1961, famously challenging the nation's finest minds to shoot for another world. Less than a decade later, they succeeded, and eventually 12 astronauts left their mark on the moon's surface. Or did they?
To find out, Adam and Jamie are testing a myth that to fake the footage, NASA filmed it in a studio and then slowed it down.
Now I've seen the movement, I'm going to try and practice jump here.
And to test that claim, Adam and Jamie will do exactly the same by recording at 48 frames per second and playing back the tape at the regular 24. You get beautifully smooth slow motion.
All right, do the run. With this effect, Adam's movements do have a certain weightless quality. But to be sure if it's the technique NASA used, we have to simulate 1/6 gravity, repeat the 3 actions, and then compare the footage.